I actually didn't want to share a lot of my Unicorn Studio process for a while because I was like, this is way too easy. Like, this is so easy. It feels really hard. And people are like, how'd you do that? How'd you like layer those effects on there? I definitely didn't want to share too much before we launched our new website because I was like, I want it to be the first one that really has a lot of it.
There's a moment in time right now where there's a massive opportunity for designers to stand out by using Unicorn Studio. So I asked Tom Johnson from Baystash to show us how he uses the product, and it is crazy. So without further ado, let's dive in.
What I use Unicorn for is predominantly for like product design. When I want to add a little bit of love to an empty state, but honestly, it's been like a huge speed factor for me because I know I can create something exceptionally good in Unicorn exceptionally fast. I'm like half an hour. I've got an empty state that nobody else can replicate. That's super performant. That's tiny. I don't have to export assets. I don't have to deal with like translation or like browser support or anything like that. I can just export it, go into Unicorn for half an hour, futz around, and then I've got a loading spinner that's like gonna wow people in onboarding calls. Let me show you one of my favorite ones.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay, so this is like when your free trial ends, you get 14 days to try out Baystash, all that kind of stuff. It's just like a simple embed that floats in the middle of the screen. It totally tracks the mouse cursor. It's got this like rich gold glinting effect. And honestly, it just really feels good. This is the type of stuff I use it for. I don't have to spend a lot of time making this feel really premium. I don't want to spend a lot of time on making an asset that might get pulled out. Like we might redo that whole landing page, but I want to know if that's live for, a month or 6 months, that first cut is going to feel like someone spent a ton of time with it. The first impression people have is like, wow, how'd you do that? That's so, not like super impressive, but it feels very unique. But I know in the back of my head, I'm like, that was 5 minutes at work. Like there's nothing compared to like Lottie in the past or outputting SVGs or all of these other frameworks where you're like dealing with GIF and compression rates and like add a new dependency and frameworks and all that kind of stuff in there. When I first started using Unicorn Studio, it was definitely for like marketing site stuff. How can I add a little bit of juice to the header or whatever, the hero? But then I put it in the product and we realized like it's like 30K. It's the tiniest little file. We have a frame rate meter in our product that measures it internally. So we can see like when it's on my MacBook, it goes up to 120 FPS. When I'm on my LG 5K 60 FPS. The one thing that never drops frame rate is the Unicorn Studio embeds. And so it's like, this is a beautiful thing. And let me show you another couple examples of like.
Yeah, please. You have me on the edge of my seat now. I'm like, you're saying a lot of things that are making this feel more attainable than I originally thought. I thought we were going to get into this really real tutorial and I was going to come away with like, yeah, that's complex, but I'm motivated. And no, I want to see how this is easy.
I'd say it's like the anti-After Effects. Like the barrier to entry feels super high, but then you get in there and you're like, this is fun. Let me just switch workspaces. So I use it for our loading spinner in our app. I'll just switch to a different workspace. Like that.
Oh, man.
Just that little bit of like, hey, I want a loading indication when the app reloads. It's not going to show up for very long, but it tracks the mouse. So it's like a little bit entertaining when something does happen. If it does take a little bit longer, which I don't love, that could start to show there. But honestly, the thing that people really like, they're really drawn to is this loading spinner, this one right here. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me zoom in a little bit.
Totally. This is the aesthetic that I associate with you, by the way.
Yeah.
I love it. Like I see something like this and I'm like, that looks like Tom's work.
So this one is like, this was so easy to make. Once I figured out the look, it looks pretty layered and all that kind of stuff, but it's really not there. Like this is a demo workspace. So I'm like, show me user. And then we've got this really cool, like the AI that we have, it can take a lot of time. Sometimes it takes a little while because we're evaluating like maybe a massive schema or all that kind of stuff. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a loading spinner that kind of looked like it got more filled in as it goes. So it like starts really pixely and then it shows up and then you've got the loading state that works. And when we started onboarding people initially with that loading state, they were like, okay, cool charts, but that loading state, it's crazy how much that small detail that didn't take me a ton of time, that didn't take us a ton of implementation cost, changed the way that people thought about the product. Like they came in there,
premium.
It feels super premium and it was really straightforward. Like it's not that bad. Like I spent more time, let me reload the page here if you can see it. Like this, there's a little loading spinner right there that I did this a GIF. That took me 5 or 10 times as long as that one in the middle there. So like here's another one.
So fun.
And this one's like, it's like tracking mouse position, and people have shared this, and it's like a welcome kind of, hey, there's nothing going on here. You've got this really nice empty state. And the other thing that I really always struggle with like vector illustrations is I really don't like that the stroke is uniform size. And so one of the things that's nice about this with the dither effect that we use is those dots, no matter how big or small your screen is, always stay the same. So I never scale it, or I never have to worry about it. Even if this does get like really, small size, those dots are always just a single pixel that's illuminated. And I don't have to worry about stroke weights. I don't have to worry about 90% of the things. And then like if I want to do light mode, light theme.
Wow.
This one's a little bit weird because like I'm showing a light source that's dark, but I really just put in one layer in the unicorn file that was like invert, and I had both assets. And it's really easy to maintain two versions of this same asset, and I don't have to like re-export it. I don't have to change a whole bunch of strokes, SVG properties. It just works. And I don't know if you can see this down here, but 140, like I'm tracking my mouse position, and that's not dropping in the slightest.
It's really cool too, because obviously this is beautiful and it's complex, but when you have that level of interactivity, it almost decreases the pressure that I personally feel as a designer to make something very artistic and like really drawing. If it's static, I feel like I really have to draw it and make it very interesting, but it's hard for me, right? Like,
yeah,
when I can outsource some of the novelty and polish to the interaction itself, it's a little bit easier to achieve that a premium effect that I'm trying to go for.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot less time that I spend like, oh, maybe I should do a little bit of a stroke contrast here. Maybe I should add a little bit of complexity, remove some stuff. Like I can illustrate. That's how I actually got into design, was like illustration work. But the amount of time it takes to make a really good illustration for me at this point it's just way beyond what I'm willing to spend. I'd rather hire somebody to do it, or I'd rather spend 5 minutes. Like this one right here, this is 5 minutes. So it's just like they have this repeat function that you bring in there, and you can throw it in. And then, I mean, they're everywhere in the app. Like if I go to data sources inside of it, you can see here's another one. It's very similar effect. So if you can't like track this, or here, this is a connected data source. So
That's cool.
Have that one there, tracking the mouse position. People, they really gravitate towards these things. And I thought they would feel like really kind of gimmicky or like over the top, but we have a really high response of people just sharing this kind of stuff and being like, whoa. And what we want to do is when people sign up for Base Dash, we want to say like, we are different from the existing tools. Like this is the level of craft and quality and care. And I feel like these just do a good job of like showing that off with as little work as possible on my end. And let me just show you the real stuff. Here's a folder I have for all my empty states. Let's look at one we've already seen. This one right here. This is all it is. It's just a couple layers. But to change this from light and dark mode, like I've just got one layer that I turn on and off. And there I've got light mode. Really what this is this is a 3D shape effect. One of their default ones you bring in. I've got this repeat 3D applied to it. So this is literally what it looks like. I drag this down axis tilt. So I make this so that it follows my cursor. And then all I do is just make it like 3D.
Wow.
And then the God rays are there. That's just like the light source. So without that, turn off this layer. Like that's what it looks like.
How are you adding something like the God rays? Like where are those coming from?
Let's make something from scratch. You want to do that, or do you want to see some more
I would love to see something from scratch. Yeah, just to kind of piece it all together.
All right. So one of the things that I always do is I design a square, and then let's just go in here. This is like their default assets. Oh, this is new. I haven't worked with this one yet. So it comes into the canvas, it'll put it right in the middle. And then to get a feel for the shape, usually I just kind of turn on this little play button, and it'll come in with like a default animation. This one is rotating around an axis, and that's controlled right here. So if I want to slow it down, I could do that. Let's choose a different background just so we can see a little bit better. Let's do like a hoop. Let's do like a gray. And then I'm going to make this shape not fully opaque. Maybe we can see a little bit better if it's like a dark gray. So it's got this animation property that I can turn on or off. And I can also control, how fast it rotates. Maybe I want it to go really fast. And maybe I want it to like pivot a little bit on the x-axis as it rotates. So it's like doing something like that. Let's make it a little bit smaller. The new repeat that they just added is radial. Let's do this one. So let's do radial spacing a little bit different. That's kind of cool. Ooh, this is kind of cool.
I can already tell a lot of the process is just fidgeting and being like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's literally the whole process is just me sitting in here being like, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what these sliders do. I'm just kind of scrubbing back and forth. You don't have to be precise. You don't have to worry about like pixel rounding or anything like that. Like I'll put on some smoothing. Maybe I want some variation. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know what some of these sliders do for each of the different shapes. So that's going around to axis. And then if I wanted to track my mouse a little bit, I can just give it a little bit of nudge. No, I don't like that. Maybe a little bit of axis tilt. So it's kind of following me a little bit, but not too much. And then my somehow my luck is the dither. So I'm just going to effects, I select dither, and then that puts a layer over the top. And I personally always go for like the Bayer 8x8, pull the threshold all the way up, and then it looks dithered. And then if I want that God rays, it's there. And then what I like to do with the God rays is I like those to track my mouse so that they're just kind of like reflecting off the edge.
Nice.
And maybe make this a little bit darker. There we go. So you're just kind of futzing with this, and the layer order really makes a difference. So right now it looks like the God rays are kind of reflecting off, and they're a little bit diffused, like a normal gradient. But if I put them under the dither, then they start to get this interesting texture. Let me go into dither. I know they're in there.
It makes me feel better seeing you just kind of blindly moving around sliders.
No, I have like no idea half the time what I'm doing. But I usually mess with like the light effects. Like this beam is a really cool one. I'll throw that in there, and then I'll put it below the dither effect.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And maybe make it below the 3D shape so it's getting occluded a little bit.
Real quick message, and then we can jump back into it. So you know how I've been talking about how I use Genway to do research with AI? Well, something surprising is happening. And just for context, I use Genway in two different ways. One is contextual interviews. So I prompt the AI with what I'm hoping to learn, and it has a dynamic conversation with each person. And the second is usability testing. So I upload a Figma prototype, and their AI agent helps me test them with people all over the world. I mean, you should see the quality of the follow-up questions. It's pretty crazy. But here's the surprising part. At the end of the interview, most people say they're more comfortable opening up to an AI agent than a real human. And it's just another reason why I'm hooked on the product. If you want to try it out, there's even a secret landing page just for Dive Club listeners, which gets you 2 months free and 10 credits to recruit people. Just head to dive.club/Genway. That's GENWAY. For a long time now, Raycast has been my portal to AI. I mean, all it takes is a quick keyboard shortcut, and all of the models are instantly available at my fingertips. But the problem was you had to be on a pro account, but that ends today because they just announced that Raycast AI is available to everyone. No subscription, no account needed. You get 50 messages to try, and you even get access to all of their extensions. I mean, I'll put it this way. If I'm gonna get a new computer tomorrow, the very first thing that I'm gonna install is Raycast. It is that good, and you can try Raycast AI for free today. Just head to dive.club/Raycast. That's RAYCAST. Okay, now on to the episode. It's amazing how, it just picked up all those reflections on every different part of that 3D object. To get all of that out of the box is kind of breathtaking. I didn't realize that I could mix something of that complexity that quickly.
Yeah, these are kind of like snowflakes too. Like this is kind of cool. Like this is a totally new effect. So I'm kind of having fun seeing what is possible. Interesting. Okay. One of the other cool things is you can create a custom one. So if it doesn't support like full, like upload a 3D shape, but if you go into custom, then you can upload an SVG that's been very flattened. Like here's the Base Dash logo. Let's see what this does. Oh, weird.
Whoa.
Okay. So that's kind of cool.
Okay, I want to make sure that I understand what just happened there. So you create a custom shape, and then you just add an SVG, and then any effects that you are then changing in the UI are just being applied to whatever the single layer fill of that SVG is?
That's right. Yeah. So you flatten it down into a single shape, and then you bring it in. And this is kind of cool. It's like uniting it together.
That's very cool. And I'm like going to play with this immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this effect. But like, here's the other ones. So this is the one that I use a lot. When you get into stuff like this, it's bizarre. But you can also do some interesting, like, oh, that's weird. That's so super cool.
I see how you can get into here and accidentally stumble into an entire visual language that you could extrapolate for years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I never know what I'm going to come up with. Where like an illustration I'll have at the back of my mind, like, oh, I want to draw this thing or an icon. I definitely know where I'm going to have with it, or an interface. Like, I know kind of where I'm going to go, and maybe I'll like diverge a little bit, or I'll try 4 or 5 different options, but they're all kind of within the frame of where I was looking. In this tool, one of the reasons that I like it so much is because there is no way that I know what I'm going to make when I come in. Like, I can't picture it because there's so many options that could modify like what actually ends up happening. Like, let me change the, let me use the gradient map functionality. Like, this is a really weird one. I don't really fully understand what a lot of these things do, to be honest. Like, I'm still learning what they do, and I just kind of click around, and then, oh, that's interesting. And I don't really, oh, there's my God rays back. Don't know how that happened.
I believe you now. I believe you about the 5-10 minutes make something beautiful.
Yeah. So I mean, like, what I've been doing normally is if I have one that I really like and I don't have to worry about like some of the values, I'll just duplicate it, delete the 3D asset, and then futz with like just one of these layers a couple of different ways. And then one of the things I definitely do is I put on, for us, I put on a duotone, which strips out all the colors except for the ones that I want. And then what I also do is I do a vignette. I do the vignette primarily because I want to make sure that it doesn't feel like it's a box on the page, but it feels like it's actually like floating on the page.
You kind of hacking like the CSS mask and framer or something like that.
Yeah. So I want this like nice radius there, and so that way I can make it feel like it's actually like on the page itself. And then if something feels a little bit static, then what I can do is I can mess with like this beam. Maybe I want that to have a little bit of a something like that.
So I put one of these in Framer before.
Yep.
I know that's very easy. It just gives you like a component. I just paste the link in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was shocked at how easy that is. But I have never tried anything about how to get something like this into a production app. I know we can't do the entire flow, but help us think a little bit about how this format even works. Probably people listening to this are going to have to sell the developer on why this is even something that belongs in production. So anything that you think can equip people there, and then just talk a little bit about your workflow from this point.
I had to do a little bit of convincing, but I also like demoed some of the stuff, and the team was like, whoa. And then they saw the file size, and they're like, oh, I mean, come on, this is crazy small. And then we saw the frame rate performance, and it was not even a big deal in the slightest. I think if you had 20 of these on a page, you'd start to get a little bit crazy. There's this new performance thing that George just added to it, where you can show the performance of it somewhere. I saw a video of it, optimize. Yeah. So like you can go in here and start to see like which layers are causing the issues. Cool. And I actually haven't messed with this yet. So this is the first impressions for me. We can start to see like what's going on. Are there any drop frames, that kind of stuff. But what I do for my workflow is I just go to export. I go down to code. I copy this JSON and I paste it in a linear ticket. And I'm like, here's the new code. And then one of my developers will take that code and they'll just update the unicorn file that works with it. So I can't give too many details on like how we do the implementation inside of the app. All I know is that is the process that I follow. And
Cursor can figure that one out.
Yeah, Cursor can figure it out. I think
if it's dumping JSON, then it's probably very similar to how I would render a Lottie. I mean, literally just yesterday, Cursor just guided me through putting a Lottie file into production, and it's there right now. So I'm like, if it's literally just that, geez. Yeah, I can make that happen.
Yeah, I think that the workflow, there's definitely some questions on the setup phase. Like, how are you going to implement it? Does your team want to do this? Does it introduce a new dependency that you have to manage? Are there performance implications? Like, how are you rendering it? All that kind of stuff that needs to happen. But I don't think that conversation wouldn't happen with any other tool. The benefit here is like it's faster for me, tiny file size. I'm not dealing with all the other complicated stuff. It feels kind of like I'm handing off any asset. It just happens to be JSON.
I'm not going to lie. I was hoping that you were going to make this feel a little bit more attainable for me, but you've overshot. I did not expect it to be this simple. And before we hit record, I had kind of put webGL into this like complicated artistic code box that was like what the really good designers did, but I didn't have time to learn. And I expected to end this call charting my learning path of like what it would take to actually get to the point where I can make a thing. But I'm like, goodness, I could try to get something into my web app tomorrow. Like, that looks really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I could like send this over and probably have it implemented in no time. I mean, it feels much more like I'm creating an image asset than I am composing a WebGL anything. I don't understand WebGL. I can't look at the JSON and understand exactly what's going on. I don't know if some of the things I've been putting out there have been like super performant in terms of like Unicorn Studio. Like I bet there's optimizations you can do if you're doing like really complicated stuff, like embedding videos. There's a lot you can do in there. And I would highly encourage people like to watch their videos on YouTube because I've learned a lot. Stuff that I've never touched. Some of the stuff that he does with effects, I'm like, what? How do you even think to start that way? And so I'm just barely scratching the surface. I know for me, with the dither aesthetic that I really lean into, it's got its own character. It's really hard to make these assets. It's also really hard to make scalable dither assets. So like that's the first thing that I came in with my lens of like, how do I make a single thing that'll work for dithering?
All right, before I let you go, is there one thing that you've made that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, I think in terms of the ones that I've shared, for whatever reason, the footer one has really resonated with people.
Yeah.
Like this one wasn't unintentional. We had the agency we worked with who helped us on the website. They did a dithered effect of a static base dash logo, and it's something I wanted to do for a while, and they threw it on there, and I loved it. But then I logged in one day and I saw some of that banding because it was a SVG. I was like, no, let's do it as a shader. So I did this one, and I think the really cool thing is it has this like diffuse, this gradient diffusion. And so as you scroll down the page, you see it. And I'm a big fan of like this, I call it anti-heroes. I don't know if anyone else calls it that, but it's like the opposite where you really like, if someone gets this far, you really have a chance to pitch them. And that's why we put this video here. And I think we actually get more conversions from this than we did at the top of the page. But the way I built that, I actually did another one that I might actually like a little bit better. You basically just have this progressive blur element that tracks your mouse position. You've got the duotone that's stripping it out, just showing the black and white. You've got the dither effect, obviously, and then the vignette is where you're getting this like bleeding over the edges so that it doesn't quite feel like it's in a box. If I were to point to one characteristic other than the dither that I really lean into, it's this one. It's the vignette. I don't want things to feel like they're in a box. I don't want you to feel like you can see the edges of the asset, because if you can,
you're just plopping it in there.
I'm plopping them in there. So what I like to do is with these assets, I either like to use the blending mode, so it's showing through the content, use a stark black or stark white background so that I can like really show it through. You can tell it's like overlaying the video. So I didn't want to take away from this video because it's got that dither aesthetic too, but I didn't want this to feel like it was a giant black bar at the bottom of the page. I wanted it to feel like it was like fading into it. And so there's a blending mode there. And then this cool, like if you're here and you're watching it for a while, you've got this kind of like waves on the beach going through it. And I think that one just works.
Next question about that. So I see the little play and pause icons in the layer list.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is looping just because you clicked that icon and that's baked into the asset itself?
It's baked into the asset. Everything that you put in here, every one of these effects, let's say if we wanted to add, let's find a good one. Oh, there's some cool stuff in here recently. Let's see if we wanted to add water caustics. Okay. So there's like a static version of this where it's just textural. And then there's another one where it's like moving.
Oh man, I got to get that on the Dive website. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, you got to do that on the Dive website for sure. But if I put that here, then you start to see like what that looks like. And then you can mess with, maybe the scale should go way down. If I wanted to use this, maybe I wanted to make it like something where I wouldn't want it to look like water, but it's like showing, oh man, that's kind of cool. Like the refraction, maybe I don't want to have as much there. Maybe I want it to look like lava, so it's kind of the inverse there. And also one of the tricks that I learned is you can go negative values with everything here. So if I wanted to go underneath 0, then I can keep going.
It's like so cool, man. What the heck?
And then like really distort it. Definitely wouldn't use this on my website. But I mean, it's
kind of something that like, I see something like this on the website and I'm like, they probably paid Basement Studio $50,000.
No.
That's the effect that this has for me when I see it on a website.
The layer order is so important. Like what I would encourage you, if you're messing around with this, just start moving things around. The exact same layers in different order changes things dramatically. Like if I put this below the blinds, maybe the blinds are revealing a little bit more or less. The caustics, maybe if I put it like way up here, it's doing more. Maybe the vignette should go above the dither. Like all these things, the exact same assets, you just kind of rearrange them and mess around a little bit, and you get a totally different effect. And it's really, really cool. And I haven't even gotten into the interactivity stuff. They also have this functionality here where you can like have staged transitions, and you can like stagger things so you can like replay it.
Wow. So this is your full timeline. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And then like for this one, this is what we use after you connect to database. Like we show this and it's pulsing. Now, if they had like triggers or if they had some kind of way of making it so that I could pause it or stop it or restart or like variable inject like a color, I think things would start to get more advanced and I would start to love it even more. But as it stands, that's super cool. And so I like made it so that the little warp behind the ball corresponds to whatever shape this is, comes in and hits the screen and just kind of like pulses out. Again, not very difficult. Like I maybe moved like one of these a little bit. It's just kind of fun to mess around with this kind of stuff. You can also do events based off of hover or appear or scroll. Like there's all this kind of stuff I honestly haven't really touched that much. Sky's the limit. You can do some crazy stuff.
I remember there was this moment in time on Twitter where I was one of the very first people to start using Screen Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I would post a video and people would be like, oh my gosh, how did you do that zooming interaction? And I'd be like, I'm not telling you. Yeah. And now, of course, like everybody uses Screen Studio. So it might not happen to that extreme, but I appreciate you pulling back the curtain and sharing a little bit of the secret sauce that you've been using behind the scenes.
I definitely didn't want to share too much before we launched our new website because I was like, I want it to be the first one that really has a lot of it. And we definitely weren't the first, but like I wanted it to be part of that. And if we sent our name out there, I wanted to be part of like the new tools and we wanted to be, established there. So it's open season. Anyone can use it. You can do this on your portfolio website. You can just mess around with it. It'd be fun to do one of these a day as a design challenge. Just like, what can you spit out? Throw it out there, allow people to remix it, discover your work.
Going back to that Screen Studio moment in time. I mean, if you did one of these a day and tweeted it, you'd blow up. Like you would blow up.
Oh, for sure.
No idea how to do this kind of stuff. Like this looks like voodoo magic for 99% of designers right now.
I think if someone's trying to like find their way in the design space and they want to learn a tool that not a lot of people know, you could create great content on this one.